anything to
if
say?
we don't start with while laughing, we can't.
It's all. One of the things I thought about. You talked on the quick cast last night about how unrequited love, being in a relationship with Purdue, and I thought I was the one who had decided they've proven the last couple of years that this, they've proven what's going to happen, right? And yet, like any long-term relationship, every now and then, your true love surprises you.
Yes.
Like last night,
different.
they still found a way to take a bitter, cold, blackened heart person like me who expects the worst,
and make it
and they
darker.
still found a way to surprise me. Don't ever let them say the magic has gone out of our relationship.
Right.
Purdue.
You are always full of surprises. It was
Yeah.
like Matt Painter gave you a bouquet last night. Kind of.
Right.
He's a thoughtful guy. He's a thoughtful guy.
Listen, let's do this. Let's do this before we get into anything. I want to do this, and I try to do this when I do a quick cast or a
Did something happen? Or are we doing?
Right.
I hope it's amazing how many people are here. You guys aren't watching the tournament today? Yeah. Oh no, that's
weird.
I'm sorry. The what?
Yeah, it's over, isn't it?
I think it was canceled. So let me do this before and I'll start with this part. This is our asterisk. I still really am impressed with Matt Painter as a basketball mind. Okay. And people are going to say, defend him now. Okay. He's very smart. He understands basketball. He can run rings around any of us, all of us combined in basketball.
Which is why it's hard to question things.
Yes. But
you feel like you're not warranted, but
yeah. And I tweeted something out and I didn't know how to say it. I kept retyping. And it's such a succinct tweet, but I wanted to get it out there. After watching the press conferences, I love this team even more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's not that it was the players more than anything. Painter was awesome. By the way, to answer every question.
And just keep saying, are you guys
ask more?
Are you guys done? You good? You good? You know how bad that feels?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's him sitting in it. That's what we keep saying, sitting in it. He says that all. And I think of a baby sitting in their own dirty diaper every time he says that. That's the first thing I think of. And yeah, we've been sitting in it all season.
But smells. Here's the thing.
It smells. It causes a rash. You have to
uncomfortable.
You brought up one of the things you brought up was, and we can do this. We'll be doing this all summer. We'll be doing this for the rest of our life. Yeah. But like bring up Boeheim before Melo as like the comparison. And the thing that makes me recoil with that though is that no. First of all, Melo is kind of a singular.
I know. He wasn't.
No. But I get it. But like it would be so much easier if Painter was an asshole like Jim Boeheim. It would be so much easier. It would be easier if he was as unlikable as I perceive Tom Izzo and Brad Underwood and Jim Boeheim. All of these, like even Kay. Like Calipari.
Because Kay, he gets in that lecture mood. It's Jay's favorite Coach K. It was when he would get over and get in a face of an opponent because he wasn't respectful enough of something.
Yeah, you stole the ball in the final minute.
Fran, it would be so much easier to disconnect with this if he was Fran McCaffrey just staring like a petulant child at a referee after a fine call.
Think about all the press conferences, whether it was Boeheim or Knight or any number of guys who had absolute hissy fit over stupid things in press conferences. Painter has literally never done. Yeah, he's bristled a few times at some questions, maybe, but he's not. He never embarrasses you.
And yesterday he was asking for more. He was asking for more questions. The SID
I agree.
Was trying to push them away early because it's like, the coach doesn't want to be here. And Painter was like,
giving you the chance, guys.
Like it's like what Boiler Dad says. He's sitting. He knows that he's got to be the one to take this on the chin.
He knows he deserves it.
It's protecting his players. There are players that have been around. Our National Player of the Year has been around for all three of these tournament losses, and Painter was the one to take it. It would be just so much easier if they were Alabama. You know what I mean? Like if this were Alabama's.
I want to ask you. So I love what you're getting at here, Anish. Like it's easier if you dislike the coach. I can't. So who's the least likable coach? Like the greatest scenario, if you were in that fan base, you're like, yeah, I could totally get it. Be like, okay, I could detach myself. The other thing is almost every fan base. Who'd you say?
Yeah, Izzo for me.
I don't think Izzo's the worst. I'd say Boeheim's worse.
Boeheim.
I know
Boeheim has become worse. That was my point that I was telling you, Anish, earlier. Is like he has gotten more amplified of his bad things. He's more whiny. He's more arrogant. He has gotten worse in his old age.
Going after student newspapers, like that's
the worst.
Why
are you going after a 19-year-old kid who works for your school? It doesn't even work.
That means you don't care.
For your school.
I don't want to hear how much you love Syracuse if that's how you treat people at Syracuse. Like, so the only, and you should make your point, but the reason I don't put Izzo there is because I think Izzo genuinely does love Michigan State, and
I think he likes his guys too. I do think he likes his guys.
I think
I
don't think
supports the university. In a way that not like I think he really cares, and I think Boeheim cares about himself. That's what I think.
Yeah.
His own.
So that's my first. The big asterisk I want to say is like I really do love these kids, these players, these students, whatever you want to call it. I hate it when they say question for the student athlete. Okay, listen, they're basketball players right now. This is what they came here for. You didn't come to hear about the test scores this week. Okay,
exactly. Yeah,
and I'm all for these guys getting good grades.
Get your questions in because these guys got to go study.
These guys right now they all have a study session, team study session.
It's a tough game,
and there's some smart kids on Purdue's team. But whatever you want to call them, my whole point is I like these guys so much, and I'm so heartbroken for them. A friend of mine texted me last night about his big problem, and I mentioned this in my post game, and he brought it up again. But he said, if you're Matt Painter and you love these kids, and he does, why don't you give them every tool, every weapon in the arsenal to help them not have their heart broken? And his whole thing was just a zone defense.
I was just going to say, by that you mean adjustments.
And that's the thing. It's not, you can call it zone, you can call it whatever you want.
Well,
here's the other thing. All the heartbreaking losses we've gone through as Purdue fans, and I think we have levels of Matt Painter apologists in our group of 5 at Boiled Sports, our group of 3 on the screen, in this margin. There's all levels, right?
It's me.
Okay.
Yes, it's me. Hello.
Okay. No, yes, you. And I think it's great.
No. But I'm on the. If we're on the sides of the spectrum, I am like as far on the Painter side of the spectrum.
And I have been very, very consistent this year about saying I've been showering the man with kudos.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like what an amazing job he did this year. Okay. But at the same time, we all have to say, at the same time, we have to be honest. If we're going to be honest on that side, we got to be honest on this side and say the commonality is not the kids. It's not that Edie was here for 3. It's not that Gillis has been on the roster for 4. It's the fact that Matt Painter, like someone said over here in the margin, the $4 million man is the issue. Yes, he's the issue. He's absolutely the issue in March. I don't know if you can cure it. I don't know how to cure it. The only thing, like we said about Boeheim, you get a guy like Carmelo Anthony, and it's almost like
you get out of the way.
How can't you do it, right? Get out of the way. Guess what, though? This isn't the model that works all the time. And let's use
it rarely works. I mean, that was 20 years ago.
Who is okay? So Tennessee, is it Barnes? Is that the coach right now? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I had a little brain fart. He coached at Texas. We've talked about this before.
Yes.
He had Kevin Durant on this team. He couldn't win a national.
Didn't he have Chris Paul too?
No, that's Wake Forest.
Wake.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Why am I thinking Texas?
But that's the whole point. Is like Purdue has had some pretty damn good players. They haven't had as much. Like IU. If you look at this IU friend of mine, I started going through. I said, "Who's the shooting guard from IU that IU fans don't like?" Who IU was pretty successful. I said, "Was it Bracy Wright? Was it Jared Jeffries? Was it?" I went through like 3 of them. Okay, all very good players. All went to the league, and they're like, "No, IU fans love him." No, I'm like, no. But the whole point that I came through was like, wow, the amount of swings IU has gotten with blue chip players.
That's it.
Is incredible, right?
That's the brand, right? That's the blue blood brand.
That
like
is the brand.
The blue blood.
Yeah.
And by all measurements, this is the where recruiting rankings come in handy, because you zoom in and on a player by player basis, it's you're going to have error. But as you increase the sample, it's going to be right more than it is wrong, right? Purdue should not be at the level of a program as it is based on the talent that they bring in. They are a development, you find the right personality fits, you develop the talent, all of that.
Let me get clarification from you. Do you mean they shouldn't be as successful as they
Correct.
were?
Yeah.
He's saying by what they recruit, and I'd say beyond it's Katie and Painter years. Right?
Katie and Painter.
I think Katie was a worse recruiter than Painter.
But they overachieve with what they have typically. I think
exactly. Just looking at it. If you look at who recruits similarly, those similar tier ranked players, programs are not as successful as Purdue. They're not.
Right.
And it is so. And being a college basketball coach is different than when Brad Stevens left and became the Celtics coach. Right there, it's just about ball. It's just about the X's and O's and where you put the players and all of this. In college, you're recruiting, you're fundraising, you're developing, you're doing everything, right? Yeah. And so that in-game part of it is a much smaller part of being a good college basketball coach, right? But once you get to these high leverage moments, it ends up being all that matters, right? Mm-hmm. Like once you've done all of that hard work, developed the 440th ranked recruit, which is basically a nobody, into the National Player of the Year, into like an unstoppable force that hasn't been seen in a long time in college basketball.
Right.
Once you're there, the things that hinge, like what March hinges on, your feelings about this year hinge on are those in-game things. And that's probably where game planning, he's really good. In-game adjustments, you've seen
so it. My thought on, I want to build on this because you guys are talking about Painter and what he does and doesn't do. I was thinking about this morning and in relation to we haven't retweeted it because we're not complete masochists. No, we are. But we haven't retweeted it. There's these Matt Painter bingo cards out there about how many seeds he's lost to. And it got me thinking, and it's like there are people who are astonished by it. And they're like, how is it? And the reason that's possible is that Purdue basketball, specifically under Painter, is a unicorn of sorts. And we've talked about this, where you have tremendous, consistent success and winning, but don't take the final step. And you don't see that because, and this is what I kind of arrived at, guys, right? You think about the great coaches around college basketball. There's components that go into it: recruiting, in-game coaching, program building, March coaching, different from other parts, right? And very few can do it all. Even the best, right? Like Calipari's having a tough time. He's not a great in-game coach, right? Yep. Great recruiter, not a great program builder. Yeah, if you recruit great guys, you're going to have a good program. But you would already fit stuff like Memphis in a conference you could dominate. Kentucky being Kentucky, right? Izzo, team isn't that good. Then they hit March, man, lights come on, and they start winning games.
That team, and I will stand by that, they deserve to be in the tournament less than Rutgers. And I know I had people that with that. But they looked the part yesterday.
They looked the part.
Goodness gracious.
Painter
and now, would anybody be shocked if they beat whoever their two seed
not at all.
No.
Painter, but what he's great at is program building, right? Making guys better than their recruiting numbers say they are.
Right.
Winning games in the regular season, not getting into the doldrums in January, February, right? Keeping the team high, not having those 5-game losing streaks. What he doesn't do is close. And I want to. This is my critical part.
And really quickly, kind of before you get on that, in the in-game stuff, also doesn't succumb to every part of college sports that we hate. The things about college sports that are slowly taking over, and just like Dowd, you are turned off to the NBA game because you don't necessarily have huge alliances to the Pacers or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like as a neutral fan, there are things about it you don't like. As a neutral fan, if you don't have a strong college affiliation, you are so turned off by everything around college sports. And the thing about Painter, that's what I'm saying. It would be so much easier if Purdue were the kind of program that succumbed to everything that college sports has become.
That rigidity works multiple ways.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Totally.
And this is as critical as I'll get on here about this, but I want to stop hearing about what a great coach, in-game coach Matt Painter is. I want to stop hearing about it because for years people talk about his out-of-bounds plays. They're not good. Stop telling me they're good. They're fucking terrible.
But you know what? The problem, Jay? Here's the problem. He had Micah Shrewsbury on his bench for 5 years, I think. And Shrewsbury drew those up. And they were good. They were good then.
Yes.
Because Shrewsbury is
good. Where did it end last night? Lawyer trapped in the corner, contested 3 with nobody moving. Everyone looked at him like, well, the play was to Fletcher.
Well, I thought it was
and now he'll shoot one without jumping. Let me just
right because he couldn't get his feet to step into
that was
it, right?
after a timeout. Your most important possession of the season, down 3.
Yeah.
To me, it was that game. That game was lost from the 8-minute mark to the 2-minute mark.
When they did not step on it, you mean?
But when they didn't step on it
13
after
minutes,
that
they had the
timeout.
6-point loss. You could say they went
on a guys. I'll tell you right now, they were down 41-36. They went on a 10-0 run,
right?
And you could feel them exerting it because it was all of a sudden. Remember those little give and goes, like Edie found Mason cutting down the lane.
Yeah.
I was like, there it is.
There we go.
You're finding ways to slice through this defense. They go on a 10-0 run. It's 46-41. From that point on, it was 22-12. They lost.
Just run at that point, the offense was just so much better.
Shooting twos.
Run it through Zach.
Yes.
Find a way to get Zach the ball, and even if Zach isn't shooting, let him find the playmakers.
Just go up and get fouled and foul them out of the game and win. You know what I thought? Even with 6-7 minutes left, I had this weird, sort of calm that I've had in some of these weird games where I thought, you know what? Fairleigh Dickinson's going to start fouling out. They're already in the double bonus.
They were in trouble.
They're already in the bonus. They're going to just win this game.
Gosh.
You know what? I thought when they were up 6 or 7, I'm like, they're going to just win it at the line and win this game by like 12-14, and it's going to be a double-digit win, and you're going to go, man, it was closer than it should have been. That's really what I thought was going to happen. They were going to have an ugly win, and then they were going to get smoked in the second round. I'll just share. That's what I was thinking. They were going to get torched by an athletic team coming out of Memphis or FAU.
But the biggest thing here is that,
fun there.
Behind the scenes, the biggest doubt was the biggest praise for this year was the freshman guards, and our biggest doubt, and Boiler Dad, you were the one that that's been saying this, is that guards win in March.
Yeah. And our biggest problem was the freshman guards.
And the biggest problem yesterday was the freshman guards. They weren't making the plays. They weren't setting it up.
It was the biggest problem, and an inability or refusal to acknowledge. And this is my problem. There is no excuse, and this is as hard as I'll get on Painter. You cannot come up with an excuse for me that is valid to not be able to counter, and Bloodrat's this on his quick cast in a manner of speaking. This team was the 300th best team in the nation by every metric. This isn't people's opinions or polls, metric-wise. They were, I read a Slate article this morning. This is the worst, and this is from the analytics side. This is the worst upset in college basketball history, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, not potentially, it is.
It is, like, literally, by the numbers, absolutely the worst. So you have 40 minutes, and I said this to you guys, I think. Painter opened the press conference by saying, FDU didn't do anything that we didn't see on film this week. So if they didn't, now, if someone went supernova and scored 35, you'd go, you know what you'd do? You'd say, that's Purdue. That happens to us. But you'd be more like, I get it. This happens to Purdue because that's just what happens. No one did that. They shot like 36% as a team. They didn't bomb 43s. All they did was say, we're going to put 3 guys on Edie, and then, I don't think I can remember a game this year where Purdue had that many wide open 3-point looks. There was almost no contested.
Did you hear what Payton said about that? He said they would triple down on Edie, which answers the question why they couldn't get the ball to him. Like I kept saying,
which is fine.
And then the second part, which is the weirdest one, is they didn't even dive out with a hand up to try to stop them. They're like,
because until you hit them, why would you? Because then if you have 3 guys with Edie, there's a chance all he can do, and he did this, was slap the ball out. Okay, so
reset the play.
All that said, the turnovers, everything. Purdue's 5 of 26 from deep. If they went, let's say they went 10 of 26, still a terrible shooting performance.
Night,
that's 15 more points,
right? And
you have won this game by 10, and you're like, all right, really was too close, but that's all it would take. And I'll cede the floor in a second, Anish. But my last point on that. Everyone needs to acknowledge this fact that I don't even think we've all talked about. Purdue is not, this year anyway, not a good 3-point shooting. They're by definition a bad 3-point shooting team. They're 270th, I believe, in the nation in 3-point shooting. They shot like 32%. Stop! You're not a team that can.
Yeah. If you want to be critical of Matt Painter,
if Carson Edwards and Ryan, if Carson
and
Ryan are out there shooting, or Sasha even. Maybe this works.
Right.
It does not work when you're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country.
How many times did we hear Paint say this is a good shooting team? Neat. They can shoot in practice. Now let's put a comparison there. Something we all talked about, 3 of us talked about, in different ways in the last couple of days was that weird Bob Kravitz. I'm going to talk about Zach Edey shooting 3-pointers. Who gives a shit, Bob? No one cares, right? But that's what he got into.
This brings me to something else, but go on.
Really, really great journalism, Bob Kravitz. I bet we're going there. Okay. And Greg Doyle, shut up. Okay. But anyway, so they choose, this is what they're going to, Bob is going to talk about shooting 3-pointer. And Paint says, well, he'd probably go 5 for 10. And his teammates say probably go 5 for 10 in practice all by himself. Right. Okay. Now, when he's in a game, he said 2 for 10. So Painter can say it's different in practice, is what he's saying. It's different when you're not in front of a crowd. It's different when you're not in front of hostiles, meaning guys that are coming at you, right? But he can't say that about his guards at some point, because I kept hearing week in, week out, this is a team that can shoot the ball.
I don't know.
I do think so. Individually, you can see why Painter would say that, because either when he recruited them, as freshmen, or in practice, or proven
for the
in
first
games
2-3 months of the season.
Exactly.
I mean,
they
when
were.
Purdue looked unstoppable, guys, the reason was Edey was doing what he did all year, and someone every game was raining threes.
Yep.
It was Lawyer, it was Mason, it was
Brandon,
it was First even in some games.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason they looked so. And remember, people were talking about Purdue, like, how do you beat this team? We were even saying they're so deep, and if people come off the bench and even hit a couple threes, you can't beat them.
You can't.
Sorry, go ahead, Anish.
I don't necessarily know if they are bad. They definitely were inconsistent. This is so. So here's the thing. The numbers usually explain things more often than they don't, right? But here's a thing where. These economists that don't watch basketball but do analyze it, talk about, they call it the hot hand theory, where they say it's not real. When you feel that pressure, when you are on this stage and all of your backs are against the wall and all of your teammates are missing, this game proves you are more likely to miss. You can't keep doing these things. You can't, a huge part of sports is that mental part of it, is that mental aspect of it. And it doesn't make sense to say that when you see in that stretch, you see all of your teammates constantly missing threes, and FDU doesn't, leap out and guard, that it doesn't get in your head, and you're not focusing on your mechanics a little bit more, and you're not trying to overthink this, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so when the team was so bad shooting all game, it didn't make sense to just keep it. There was some, and even Painter started to say this in the post game, where it was like there was a breakdown in execution, and then he then redirected it to himself, which is what he does. But there was a gap between, you've got to get the thing that he kept on repeating was you've got to get layups, right? And he didn't say, Braden Smith, you've got to call for be patient and call for high screen and rolls if they're triple teaming Zach, right? But there was something in between. What do they talk about
in practice then?
Exactly. There's something in between that.
Good job, guys.
Execution, the game plan and execution that didn't work yet.
Real quick point, because Jay, I think you're chomping at the bit a little bit.
No, I'm good.
But so if you want to, I know Anish is a much more analytical person than I am. He looks at basketball stats more than I do. But this stat's kind of damning. It's a simple stat, but I'm going to go through first I'll say the team, as a team, they shot 32% from three, right? Okay. Let's say that on the year.
That's bad.
Who's the best 3-point shooter on the team? Do you know by percentage?
Lawyer.
Smith.
Yeah, he was
What's
good
his percentage?
I probably 35, 36.
37.6. Pretty good. After him, who's they're the second? They're tied.
Gillis.
Gillis and Jenkins, 35. That's
compared to previous years. I mean, Purdue was over 40% as a team in previous years, right?
And I think in modern basketball, a good team is generally over 40%. Is that too much?
If it's a key part of your offense,
not necessarily 40, but yeah, you've got to be as a team like high 30s.
Yeah. And when you're not, what is it? Is it a refusal to acknowledge that's the case? Or, I know we've talked about this in the past where Painter has said, I'm not going to get away from what we do because when I've done that in the past, it's really not worked out well as a team. But there are instances, such as a game against a team as small and like your talent, your sheer physical talent, size, these are better athletes in every measurable.
Right.
You should be able to say, guys, I know we don't normally do this, but here's what we're going to do to slice through these guys. We have to do something different. And I'm not going to argue that it would always work and that if you get guys out of their comfort zone, that might not lead to problems. But you've now got a large sample size of examples where sticking to what you do does not pay off.
In March.
You need to be able to identify it, though, don't you? Yeah, well, that's because
what's the
teams they play not in March are not like this. You don't play teams this size that play this type of game any other time of the year. You do.
So let me ask you guys a question.
There's actually a really good point, but go ahead.
I was going to say this is real simple, and I was talking on the phone with my brother this morning, and he said Painter was not willing to adjust in spite of looking at this team and saying this isn't like any other game we've played this year. Fairleigh Dickinson's coach said that. He said, we knew we were weird. We weren't like the Big Ten. We're all little. I don't think he understood how quick we are. All true. Now, let's do this for a second because I think it's an interesting thought experiment. If Matt Painter were playing a team with 5 guys over 7 feet on that team,
would he adjust?
Would he adjust? Yes, damn right he would, right? I mean, I don't
know because his routine of shooting, relying on the 3 ball was what you would do against all those 7-footers, isn't it?
I think you'd try to use your mobility, right? You'd say we're gonna turn up the pace, right? Maybe you wouldn't play Edey in that case.
Here's the question that NoLim23 had here. It's both kind of why does Purdue always play down to the level of inferior opponents, and why haven't they been able, to handle the press, for the last 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. The inferior level of opponents is not it's
not unique to Purdue, I don't think.
It's not unique to Purdue, and also it's not the through line for the let's just take the last 3 years, right? North Texas, St. Peter's, and Fairleigh Dickinson. They were both Fairleigh Dickinson. I think we've been corrected. J Money is the alumnus here. Yeah, exactly.
I was looking for a Fairleigh shirt.
I've often called you a dick, but I didn't know that.
It's a fair one.
Yeah, it's like a fair one, very much so.
Fairleigh, you're kind of fairly ridiculous. That's the denigration it usually receives. So go on.
But it's as dumb as Purdue.
It is
every bit.
But here's the thing: when people say it, you're like, now it's like, that's right. You can't say anything back. It's just like, yes, correct.
If you want to be happy with Purdue basketball, you need to go to all those November tournaments.
Exactly.
That's when it's the most fun I've had watching Purdue basketball. How about that?
But back to the to that question, it's the through line is undersized, quick teams that are more than happy to punish Purdue, like to play 5 out, right? And to bring Zach out of the paint and either drive or find open shooters from that, right? In the past years, it was open shooters. This time it was 24 points? Almost a third of their points in the paint.
Yes.
I mean, that's nuts.
That's bizarre.
Mind-boggling.
Bizarre.
And of all of Paint's, terrible losses, VCU, again, like on retrospect, had, a really good coach and they actually had some really good players, right? North Texas, Grant McCaslin is actually it turns out he's a very good coach, right? Like, and he may end up being shortlisted if Texas flames out early for the Texas job, right? Like it.
But Matt Painter's supposed to be too.
Shaheen Holloway last year was a rising star, and all of a sudden, it's fine. This one, you get beaten from 3-pointers, or you get beaten by a team that presses you. This one is the one that it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. Nobody went off. It wasn't an unbeatable scheme. They shot 36%. It was just like you could feel it.
They just beat them.
Bomani Jones calls it lemon booty time, where like it's clinching,
puckering up.
It's pucker butt. They call it lemon booty.
Oh, and I mean, as much as Lapis was awful on that broadcast, he had a couple salient points. If he just didn't sound like a complete mook, it would have been much better.
He does though.
But he would say, remember towards the end, he said nobody wants to shoot. He was right. Gillis triple pumped. Yeah. Yes.
I couldn't believe that. I said they're
they
done.
were clenching.
That was like with 5
Morton
minutes
had
left.
a wide open. Morton had a wide open one in the
Yes.
corner, or could have had a mid ranger. Shoot the mid range. Fine.
As you guys know, I am anti-timeout. However, those were the moments you say, "Whoa, okay, everybody, we have to lighten up.
We're
here.
playing
We have to
basketball.
take your shots. This is what you're here for." Like,
Right.
I don't know what to say, but I'm not the coach making $4 million.
Right.
You say something. There are teams where you stand on the sideline and you do his like. There are teams you do that with. There are teams you stop and say something's unraveling here. You guys you have to have an answer. And this brings me to, and you alluded to this earlier, Kravitz's goofy ass. Can Zach Edey shoot a 3-pointer and ends up on the front page of The Athletic for a few hours? Right. What happens when you do that, or Goodman does his bit when I was there a few weeks ago, where's Robbie Hummel's statue? That's all funny, ha, it's so cute, and you get Matt Painter to play into it and all the players to play into it. What that does then is it eliminates the opportunity, because you're pals with everyone. You can't ask a critical question anymore. Right. Now you could, but it'd be weird because then they're not going to give you your access anymore, right? They're not going to let you stand on the court and do a dopey ass comedy routine that's not that funny. Right. So we have guys who sit in the press conference who are the loudest voices because they're big names like Greg Doyle and Bob Kravitz, and that's fine. But you guys have an obligation. There's an obligation. The job of media, and I know they've all lost the plot here, is to convey information and ask the questions people want to hear the answers to. And
we can't get the information.
This has been a bugaboo of mine. That's a good word there. For years, because there's a guy who does the Rangers hockey, completely different thing, and he does the post game in the locker room questions. And I know that's hard to ask questions game after game, right? But 90% of the things he does is, how big was it to win today?
How did it feel? How did
it feel is I can take how did it feel once in a while, because like I want to know what this is like for you. The one that kills me is how big was that? 7? What's the scale? What are we saying? Well, how big was it? What the fuck
Red
is that? So these guys get up there, and instead of asking questions like, they skip over what we do is we say, this is what I think the mentality is. It's like, well, he knows more about basketball strategy than me. So if he couldn't figure it out, it must be unfigurable. So we will instead ask, is Zach Edey coming back? What do you say to the guys in the locker room? Who gives a shit what you say to them in the locker room?
What did it feel like leaving the court?
I love you guys. I'm so sorry this happened. I'm sure these are things I'm sure Painter says.
Right.
I wish we had done better for you.
You're not a failure.
I wish we had been better. I'm sure he said this is on us.
Exactly.
And I'm sure he said we need to work. We need to work harder. That's the proof that anyone can. You know what he said. So ask him why, against the 300th best team in the country, you had 0 adjustments, nothing in the bag.
No answers.
You got outcoached by a guy who was D2 until this year. And a team, by the way, they were 4-28 last year. FDU.
They shouldn't have made the tournament.
They didn't win the conference title.
They didn't make the tournament.
Yeah, they didn't make the tournament. They made it because Merrimack, was it? Like, yes. Couldn't.
Yeah, they just
they moved to Division I recently,
which is dumb. It's
the dumbest
dumb.
rule ever. They moved 4 years ago. You can't go to the tournament for 4 years.
Thanks, NCAA, for having your priorities.
The explanation I saw was that it's to keep teams from biting off more than they can chew. What the hell does that mean?
What does that mean?
If you join Division I and you're good enough to win your auto bid, you should sue the.
It's punished multiple teams, right? We saw it last year too.
Think about how it punishes them, though. They're sitting at home watching FDU now. Like, look what this did for FDU basketball. Right. Look what it did for UMBC a few years ago.
Like, punishes the team that came up. I mean, like all season they earned it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if only there was a governing body.
Yeah, some sort of overarching thing.
This is the most animated I've been on a podcast. Is it?
All it takes is a collapse of historic proportions that it is unlikely to ever be surpassed. It's just, I mean, like, it is historic.
But why?
This is the worst team to ever make. I think it's not a stretch
it's weird
to
me
say
that Purdue ends up with the worst team in the tournament too. They're not the overall one, and if FDU had lost to the team they played, that would have been, because that team was like 14-18.
Merrimack,
so
Texas
they were getting the
Texas
worst
Southern,
team in the tournament, and I don't understand that because they weren't the overall one. It's not supposed to work that way. But again, who knows how the tournament.
And they got him in Columbus, which is a short drive for most Purdue fans. Like they got him in really friendly areas. Meanwhile, Kansas is about to play. They're about to play in like enemy territory. Who are they about to play? Arkansas or something like that? Like they're about to play like instead of going through Kansas City.
Oh man, I wish Kansas basketball could catch a break.
I know exactly.
They just need one thing to go their way.
But it's like, so.
They're great.
That's still one of my favorite down bits is when he does that. When he goes, I wish Alabama football could just catch a break.
Just one time. If things line up, who knows what we'd be talking about right now?
That's the other thing. It would be a lot easier to distance, from these kind of losses if it was Bill Self, at the helm. It's like,
That said, I don't want Bill Self to die. I'd like to.
Yeah, exactly. That's a little bit, beyond the thing.
Get back so we can hate on your ass.
Exactly.
That's what I would like. Right. I want you to keep coaching and be insufferable.
He's a guy, by the way, that so if you look at disappointing tournament coaches, Bennett is up there. Painter obviously is setting. He's the gold standard right now. But Bill Self has had some really, really bad tournament bailouts. Jamie Dixon is right there.
Jamie Dixon would probably, as a Pitt.
Bill Self mixed in 2 national championships. So
I know, and that's the problem.
Bennett got a national championship. Scott Drew, by the way, got his national championship. Like all of these guys either made a Final Four or got the championship run. Bo Ryan got his Final Four.
And he'll go to Missouri and get away.
I know, exactly.
That's so that's the funny thing. All these people, the Fire Painter crowd is a loud group. And there's a lot of them on Twitter.
Or Resign Painter. Resign Painter.
It's like anything else like this, the impulsive stuff. Like, okay, let's say he's fired. Let's say Babinski goes out there and says, this is just not recoverable.
Micah is the clear answer.
But no, but
the guy that Painter whips every time he plays him?
Yeah, exactly.
But he wouldn't come, though. Micah wouldn't come. If Painter gets canned, Micah's not going to talk to Purdue.
Exactly. Why would Purdue?
Right?
You lose the respect of any coach that you want.
Okay, Jay, if I got fired by Boiled Sports, okay, would you take the big big seat, the post game, the quick gas seat? You'd be like
glee. Oh my gosh!
Well, you're a person of low character, okay? Because I would be very angry. I would call you.
They wronged his buddy.
Yeah, I think they would. No. I think he would. I bet he would. I bet he wouldn't come.
It's not how coaching jobs work.
I bet he wouldn't come.
I think
here's the thing. Before we say another word of this isn't on the table.
No,
this is not on the table. The fire, but
that's why the Painter bingo card is so unique because you have to be good.
I said it earlier. You have to be consistently good to be even able to lose to double-digit seeds. So guys, victory there. That'll be the next graphic.
We're so good.
Puts up exactly. First coach to be good enough to lose to all the double digits.
All we need is it was a 10 and a 14 to make the double-digit bingo.
Bingo, awesome.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Florida so let's just name them. Number 1, Florida in 2007. Number 2, Kansas in 2012. Because we're doing this.
They were a 1 or a 2 also, weren't they?
No. So losing 2. Yeah. The number
Correct.
3.
Who was Virginia? They lost to them. You and I were there.
Yeah. Number 3, Xavier. In a 3-seed Xavier in 2008.
Bring up Mr. Meister's
Why don't you just punch me in the testicles?
Bring Mr. Meister's
Cincinnati
question up,
in 2015, and then we've got the 11, 12, 13, 15, 16.
We know those. We're familiar with those.
Exactly. Bringing which one?
Mr. Meister.
Meister's most recent.
It's a great name, by the way, Mr. Meister.
Great name, stupid question. Why is this not on the table? He's talking about the Painter.
Great name, stupid
question. But to be fair, he said Lainter, so I don't know.
Okay, so I don't even know Lainter is. Lainter can be fired.
Yeah,
Painter won't be fired.
That's the coach.
That's the one.
East Lafayette.
East Lafayette.
Tom Sculper's assistant.
The reason Painter's not going to be
Tom
fired.
Sculper.
Tom Sculper makes me laugh every time.
What's the opposite of Matt Painter? Tom Sculptor.
Short guy, skinny.
Yeah. Hates meats. He's vegan. Tofu.
He's vegan. He wins in March all the time. He's terrible in regular season.
Horrible in November and December.
He's
awful. Gosh, he can recruit.
You said something.
Why is it not on the table?
You said something that was jarring to me, though, and in an amazing way about one of the reasons you obviously wouldn't is that if even a semblance or most of this team comes back, they're absolutely going to be top 5 to start the season.
Oh,
and they could be one.
They're the prohibitive national title favorites. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, because they've handled this pressure so well. But that's the thing. You listen to Newbert. He said the part of the problem is they're like, oh man, the weight of this number 1 seed. What? Oh. The weight of the number 1 seed? This is the sweetest deal.
It is, but the last 2 number 1 seeds they've had.
Yeah. Limped over the,
when you say the last 2, you make it sound like it was like.
Well,
one of them, I had flowy hair. It was very thin, in shape.
1996, and they won by 2. And
but the reason Lehner won't get fired. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, number one. So here's the thing. I said this in this. I can't find his name now. Meister. He didn't watch the post game. He should have watched the post game because I explained.
Always watch the post game.
Seriously, watch the post game. It's really good. It's a really good way to process.
I was so trying to be good. In that.
Jennifer makes a great point. Sorry to interrupt you, but she says all the people bitching about, except for Painter to be fired, were the ones saying he should have gotten Coach of the Year a couple weeks ago. Man, what a great point.
Yeah.
Right?
We love our Purdue fan base. We are not immune to nonsense.
Sorry, go ahead.
This. Absolutely good point. Go ahead.
He's not going to get fired for multiple reasons, but one thing is, okay, so what do you ask for? What does Purdue specifically? We know Purdue. We are not removing ourselves from Purdue culture.
A clean program.
Clean program.
Nice guys.
We want the outside face to be very nice. We want the fans to be inspired. We want them to want to buy tickets. We want them to want to give money. All that stuff is in place still.
Yes.
If Purdue start pulling the plug, by the way, with the last time, I'm trying to think if this is accurate. The last time, no, it's not true. When Hope was fired, not when Hazel was fired. Okay, when Danny Hope was fired.
At the time. That was Burke going, all right, you want to do this? Fine. Here you go. I'll spend $2 million on this guy.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that was all. I heard that from people that have the concierge service. I don't get invited to these parties. People that give enough money that there's somebody that calls them, says, "Hey, Mr. Lash, is everything okay? Hey, how are you?" Yeah, sorry. Hey, they call them because they want to make sure they're all right, because they want to make sure
hypothetically,
just right. But yeah, hypothetically.
We'll leave the F-bombs in, and I'll censor that in post. I'll censor that in post.
No problem. But the people that get called by the athletic department to say, "Are you doing okay?" after this ass kicking Minnesota just gave Purdue's football team. Okay. They call them and they get their finger on the pulse. And when those guys say, "I'm not happy.
I'm not coming back. I'm not
coming back." Well, when those all start doing it, then you have an issue. And then you have the athletic director saying, these people aren't getting tickets. They're not going to give their 10 grand. They're not going to give their additional right?
That's what happened. People stopped coming.
That's it. But that's what has to happen.
And that's not right. Your point is we're nowhere near that.
We're nowhere near that. We are in this phase right now that all the impassioned Twitter people are lighting the place on fire.
Which you also have to remember, that's a small percentage of reality. As much as you get sucked into that, most people in the world are not on Twitter.
But then to the flip side, which was Boiler Doubt's comment in the post game, the worse than this is the casual fan that taps out, right? Which is
That's exactly right.
You're going to lose them for sure.
You're going to lose them, and so
I have been historically. I want to say this though, setting up historically, I have been on the other side of this with you two, which is like March is a part of the season, but Big Ten championships, Big Ten tournaments, like running good all of this, like is most of the journey. Right, and
there's
so
so many parts of it. It's a huge job.
But that's been we've checked that box.
At this point, it doesn't matter. Right. At this point, you've hit the national. But he's already recruited a top 5 and recruited and developed a top 5 NBA player, a top 5 NBA draft pick. Yeah. He's recruited and developed a National Player of the Year. Like he's got the 5-star, right? He recruited a dominant All-American, like historically college basketball great dominant 5-star. He's won 4 Big Ten championships, 2 regular season, 2 Big Ten tournament titles. By the way, our beloved Gene Cady only won 6 Big Ten titles, right?
So he's closing in.
He's closing in.
You guys remember like 2 summers ago, I did a throw. I mean, I say throwaway because nobody listened to it. Nobody watched it. But I did this research about Painter's trajectory. If he coaches till 65, I think it was what I picked. And how much further away, how much past Cady he'll get. Right?
He's easily the greatest basketball coach in Purdue history.
Right. And it makes all this, and this is why I use the term purgatory, it makes all this more obvious that the Painter firing after this isn't going to happen. It's a silly, and I don't.
He's not embarrassed.
It's a silly conversation. It's a
silly conversation for a lot of reasons.
It's a silly child's conversation.
Right. Like, and I don't want to put people down until they get really dumb.
Yeah.
But this gets pretty silly pretty quickly because you're just not being logical. I'd like you to go out. This is the other thing. Find me the precedent. I've asked this from multiple people. Find me the precedent of this happening in Power 6 conference basketball. Okay, can we say that? Power 6 for basketball. When has a coach won a conference and gotten fired?
It's a child's
probably
conversation.
happened. It's probably happened. It's definitely
probably happened, and I bet it's at a place like Kentucky or Texas A&M where you've got just gobs of money. Throw it at the problem. You the buyout, whatever it takes. We want it to end, and it always probably goes great. The next coach, right? Here's the other thing. I want to tell you the other thing that I don't think a lot of the Fire Painter crowd have thought about. This is the one that gets me, and I started thinking about this, and I was like, oh, he gets fired. He gets hired within about 4 seconds.
Oh,
and then goes.
And then he goes to the Final Four.
100,000%.
How do you feel then, Fire Painter crowd? And I'm not trying to. This is not hypothetical.
Takes North Carolina State or something to like. What are you doing?
How? Because he'll be even more motivated.
Oh, he'll be great. And so
he'll be answering the media. The things that we love about him, we'll still see it. Except now he is not happy with you guys because you Fire Laner crowds, you pushed him out. So. Think about the repercussions in the real world of what this does to you.
So here's the real question, which is, from the Purdue greats, Rick Mount and Joe Barry Carroll.
I love that they get on together.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for huddling around.
They're both.
Can you see them? They're at the kitchen table.
Exactly. Okay, Painter's not fired, but how does he come back from this? I mean, how does he come back from this?
I actually think it's very easy. I think I don't lose to 16 next year. I mean. That's what I would do.
Hey, Virginia, this is the most common comeback from all of the on the other side of these the infinitely positive Purdue things is like, yeah, we'll just win the national title next year.
I had people trying to make me feel better like that. Oh, I'm just happy the team won the national title. I'm like,
Virginia, it's a guarantee. It just happened one time, and it happened right after.
Somebody said
100%.
That some people made points about how one of the analysis of how bad a loss this was. I saw a point made that that Virginia team was actually better than this Purdue team. Now you could probably argue that, but it's hard to argue it when the next year they won the national title. So let's accept that they were a better team.
They had 6 players that sniffed the NBA.
UMBC
by the way.
was a much better team than Fairleigh Dickinson. UMBC, again looking at the analytics, they said that team actually should have been like a 15. They were not a 16. Right. They were good. They beat Virginia by 20 points. I remember that night, the last 10 minutes of the game, it was over. It was foregone because Virginia couldn't score. And you're like, they're going to, at least Purdue, thought there was they did what Purdue does. They always leave a little bit of hope.
Yeah. and then just stab you.
Just just twist it around, but don't hit anything vital so you don't die. Just make sure that.
That's right. You live, you survive.
Slice your Achilles, but don't, but nice.
Oh, Pet Cemetery, that scene with.
I can't. Don't bring that up. Why did I even do that?
There's a baby too. The little baby.
Stop it!
Scalpel.
Stop it.
Under the bed, Jay.
Stop!
You got to worry about that now when you go to your room tonight. Maybe there's a baby with a scalpel.
I'm holding my ankle right now. You're bothering me. Stop it. Anyway.
I mean, like next. So the two biggest things is how does Painter come back?
Just suggested Shaka Smart. Devin, can we eject people?
Just exactly. Jettison.
Don't worry, Shaka's going to make another run. By the way, speaking of a poisoned place, again, he left Texas, a poisoned place that would fire a coach after going to the thing. He goes to Marquette.
Yeah, it looks like they're probably
going to make the Final Four.
Region is wide open for him now. I mean, not wide open.
You really caught yourself really well right there. Did I just hear that? You caught yourself really well.
Duke and Tennessee are going to knock each other out. One of them is going to be out, right? And then Duke's going to just roll right into the Elite Eight because they're going to be playing like Florida Atlantic.
Because the basketball gods hate us. Because we built Mackey Arena on
a burial ground.
Ancient burial ground.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That has to be.
It's a weird burial ground because it allows for a lot of success above it.
Yeah.
But if you leave, they get very angry.
They get angry. They chase you down to other states.
It's a burial ground of people who liked basketball. Clearly.
It's jealous. It's unrequited lovers, right?
They're like, play it all right here.
It should be here. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the second thing is, the maybe before either going, but it's
just want to put that out there.
What?
Smart did not get fired.
He left. He
left.
Smartly left because knew he would eventually get fired, and he took
He's
a job.
He's a smart guy and a good coach. Does Zach leave? This is the this is the inevitable question.
I watched the post game comments by him. I feel like I think he's going.
I think, but I think there's it's not a 0% chance he comes back.
No, it's not at all.
In fact, there's a chance.
I think losing like this makes him want to come back
I think
because
there's
he's
a chance
Zach
because
Edey
of
that we
that.
all love. I mean, like
He loves his teammates.
Yeah.
He hates losing.
He
loves
doesn't
his
need
coach.
the money. I mean, like
he
his
loves
family...
the university. All this stuff is right there. But you know what he said though that got me was, I understand that this is about my future.
He's too
that
smart.
to me is again
he's way
what
too
Payne
smart.
said. He's so logical.
Our
He's
two
got
centers. One is Zach Edey.
One is reading Immanuel Kant.
And our backup center is reading Immanuel Kant just on the road. Like Trey Kaufman Red is just like reading deep philosophy in his spare time.
Cart.
It's like I wish they were hateable. I wish they weren't. I wish they were Alabama's players.
Oh man, Tarek's comment. Put
it
that
would be
one
so
up
much
there.
easier, but they're so good, so smart. I think he is. I
Watch
agree.
Painter. Tarek Kamal says, "Watch Painter resign to take the head coach job at Texas and win it all in 2025." That
barbecue's better down there. To be fair,
barbecue. Yeah, he would like the barbecue. Austin barbecue, man, they kill it there. They've got two places right outside of Austin that are they're
Painter out here
money,
looking like Mangino.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys, win sprints.
I think it's still isn't it still Lebitard's profile picture where it's Mangino next to the Syracuse Orange mascot? It's so stupid.
It's stupid and perfect.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That whole the Zach thing, like I guess he could come back and actually shoot threes and say, "Look, I will handle everything from now on.
I'll just do the whole thing. I'll just bring the ball up.
You morons, fine. I'll go out there and do that part too." No, is it partly? I wanted to ask.
He bit his tongue so hard he was so good because they were asking questions trying to get him to admit that the shooting failed him. That's all you can hear. They were trying to do it.
That the team failed him.
But
which, by the way, I kind of want we don't want to call out they did.
Yeah.
They did.
Like Zach was awesome.
But to ask him to throw them under the bus, you guys, that's not good journalism. To try to trap him into a quote that makes him look like a jerk is shitty gotcha crap. And
it is.
And the fact
but it takes all of these people that don't, and we'll set GBI aside because they have to maintain a good relationship and they have to do this. When you're Doyle, what it does is it takes an extra effort to dive into the tape, to talk to scouts, to talk to coaches, to dive into the X's and O's. It is a hard thing to do, but then you can say, hey, I know your philosophy is to always keep 2 feet in the paint. Is it more difficult when you have these smaller matchups, even when you're matched up against the worst shooter? Or does the possibility of the closeouts make it a little more difficult to contest at the rim? These are simple X's and O's questions.
Not a hard question.
They're not even questions that you have to dive into the analysis for, right?
And
you had to watch the game.
Can barely spell his own name, and he came up with those questions like that.
I'm an idiot.
Exactly, an absolute moron.
A proven
Not
moron. So it's like that's
earlier.
the stuff where it's like, and Painter. It's not like Painter is one of these coaches. He may get a little, a little defensive here, but he's willing to spar. Like he's happy to go into the X's and O's instead of all of this kind of nonsense, like all of this ephemeral BS, right? And it's just nobody's pushing it. And so how does Purdue come back next year? Just fine. Purdue will be just fine. We'll probably win the Big Ten, and we'll probably flame out in some way, heartbreaking fashion.
And Nisha's come over to the dark side. Did you hear that? They'll probably flame out.
Yeah,
he's there. He's with us.
Top three in the Big Ten and losing the Sweet 16. That's it. And so now.
So is one of the things, this is one of my notes that I wanted to ask you guys, is one of the, because I feel like
notes. Ooh, I'm so much better than
this
you.
is what
show
I told
prep.
you it's like the first time ever I wrote things on my phone. It's not like I wrote things down. Is it the lack of an alpha dog? Now I know Zach is in a sense that guy, but he's not Carson, right? Like the fact that nobody would had the stones late to just take that shot, right? And Purdue had, you look back and we talk about how, lucky we were. They had, Klein for his limitations at times, he still wasn't afraid. He would do it. He would never have triple pumped and not shot.
He wasn't a freshman. Not maybe his freshman year,
maybe
but not his senior.
But not by the time.
That's a good question. That's a good point.
Like who's is this team going to keep doing what they do, dominating regular seasons, because a loss doesn't kill you? and then lose in the tournament because they don't have the guy who can push them. I mean,
even Jaden
didn't
wasn't
have that gear.
so Jaden on paper was that guy,
Yes.
but he
personality I don't think was that.
Personality, but he would do that now. Right,
Yes.
if he were a junior, he would have done that, or
Ivy on this team.
I know. I've been thinking about this, dude. I've been thinking
How
about
about
this so
Ivy
much.
like next year coming back?
That's the thing.
That's what they
that?
need. They need
Can
a
he
guy
do
with he's had some really good
legal?
coaching. He's got experience under his belt in the NBA. I'm sure the NCAA. There's no eligibility.
His mom would be
anyway.
at games all the time, which is always a plus.
Awesome, love her. Like she and Julie
demographic
Speedy would be
changes
bestie
niche.
pals. Like it'd be great. Like it'd be like a funny cop duo, right? Like the tall one and the short
Oh,
one.
Julia and Neil. I mean,
Yes.
oh my gosh,
Yes,
that would be
it'd be
amazing.
great.
They
I'd
should have
fit
their
in.
own show.
They
They
would
should
be
have their
amazing.
own podcast.
Yes.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, like Jaden wasn't a alpha recruit coming out of high school, right?
Right.
And so and was developed into a superstar, and even his sophomore year, it wasn't expected that he was going to be a superstar.
No.
We knew he was going to be good.
Good.
Not
Yes.
top 5 pick in
Right.
the draft, good, right? And so after an off season, like the off season after you're the superstar, is when you kind of develop that confidence. Zach, it's the difference between Zach last year and this year is when he his confidence was like, oh, I can just outplay like everybody else out here, right? The guard version of that would have been Jaden this year, or was Carson? I mean, Carson was like
Okay.
that from the moment he stepped
Okay.
up, but was Ryan Klein his senior?
So,
year, right?
does a year, 30 plus games, a lot of really good experience, and a shit ton of
Smith.
minutes, does that do that for Smith and Lawyer?
I hope so. I mean, and they're going to be 4-year players. I really do think. And
Oh, yeah.
You've been saying that for a long time. I
Absolutely,
think
they're going to be 4-year players. Where are they going to
Smith
go?
has got an ideal NBA point guard build.
no, he doesn't. He's 5'8",
What?
though.
He doesn't?
He's 5'8", 5'6".
For a second, I was like,
5'2".
"Ew, you really don't watch the NBA, do you?"
You really don't watch sports, do you?
What? I was like, how do we explain
Somebody
that?
tell him.
Who wants to tell him?
Yeah.
I thought you were.
I
That's
was not at all.
that's one of your best bits is always delivering.
Delivering a dumbass comment.
I've told this. We're gonna diverge here, Nish. You've probably heard this. I don't know if everybody listening has. Long time ago, 15 years ago, when Tiger Woods got caught cheating on his wife.
The first
This is one of my
time.
favorite boiled down family stories. He and his brother are out to lunch like that day or the next day or when it broke, and everyone was like, "Oh!" And they're out with their wives, women who have known them forever.
Yes.
And he and his brother fall right into the like they're in character, and they're like, I just think
We didn't nod.
nope.
It was happening.
He just
yeah.
goes, I just think when you've attained a certain amount of fame and riches, you've earned the right to kind of if you want to
Look
play around,
a
you
little
want
bit.
to. Who's she to stop him from seeking enjoyment? Like they just and their wives were so.
And we're like going
appalled.
back and forth like popcorn. And they're
Backing
just
each
sitting there
other up.
going,
They were appalled, right? And
Yes,
the fact
yes.
that anyway, so that's so he just did it again right there. The delivery
Tremendous.
is
just
always very
tremendous
good.
delivery.
It's,
When you're in your pocket, that's it.
well, that's
Like,
I
it's
say
the
it all
bag.
the time to my wife. Humor, comedy, half of it is timing, or
delivery.
3/4 of it is
Absolutely.
timing, right?
Yes.
Just put the thing in the right place, the right time, and you can get a lot more of a return
Oh.
on that joke.
Humor is misery plus time, and boy, are we good at this.
We got it all. We got it all.
Are we Purdue fans? Great.
By the way, I got a text from our friend 25, friend of the program, Ryan
Yeah,
Booth.
he was on. He was in the margin for a
He
second.
said that
complaining.
FDU lost to Sacred Heart twice this year.
But
The
Sacred Heart,
hospital,
no,
the
you, the thing
hospital
you
from
don't know.
Scrubs, is that what Sacred Heart? Isn't that Sacred Heart?
Did you see
It is.
Sacred Heart's big man? He was like 7'5". People said he was just big too. 7'5" center, could hit from anywhere. He's a big, strong guy. No, he didn't have a 7'5" guy. They also didn't have anybody like people like somebody over here is recruiting is complaining about Smith and his resume as a recruit. No, hold on a second for just a second. You can complain, but he's the guy who started. So if he didn't come to Purdue, who would have played point guard this year, friends?
Jenkins, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know the
probably
answer to it.
Jenkins.
But I really
Morton,
don't think the best thing
maybe.
as fans would be to go after the guy who just
we've long had this conversation.
Let's just stop
You can
that.
criticize
Yeah,
the way they played, but we're not going to go after these guys for giving their all.
Braden Smith had and I'll be frank here. Like the most frustrated I have been at a Purdue player in a long time was me with Braden Smith yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think
But in no way are you saying get out of here.
he is the prototype of a player that if Purdue were to ever make it to this mythical Final Four that people say exists, he's the prototypical kind of player that Purdue needs.
So I don't know if it exists.
Exactly. I've never seen it. I don't know.
April was when the Masters was on. There's no basketball in April.
I've never seen the moon.
Bird noises.
Personally, I've never seen it up close. Does it exist? I don't know. But like Braden Smith is the kind of guy that the kind of personality, the player type, everything that a senior like a senior Braden Smith, not like 86 years old senior, like senior tour Braden Smith, but like a senior 3 years.
Booker's going hard over here in the market.
And he's right. No, I agree with him.
Point guard we've ever had.
I think he's right. And if you don't, here's the thing: the data set.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is a hard one to come up. I've thought about this. He and I talked about
Blue Jack's not better.
Huh?
No, I don't.
Blue
Jack's not better.
But wait until his career again. He's
That's
his
it.
freshman
In a couple
year.
years, fine.
Exactly.
Now, if you say so January 15th, Smith is maybe the best point guard we've ever seen.
And Lawyer's the best shooting guard we've ever seen.
Call him a
too.
paint guard?
I mean, he's a paint guard. He's a paint guard because he plays under
He's a
paint.
paint guard.
Paint recruited him. He's a paint guard.
Yeah, but that's the problem. He had to get through he fought hard. That's the thing. He fought.
Just
Billy
look
Keller,
at
by
Denise
the way, is a
reconciling
great
this.
take.
Look at him.
No,
Look at him.
and
He's
it's
watching
like-
him in real time, struggling with it.
And it's like you see Morton, you see Braden Smith, you see Fletcher Lawyer take after an abysmal 2 months, probably the worst 2 months of his basketball career. And he's the one that goes up to the podium and answers questions.
Who, Lawyer?
Yeah, you see Ethan Morton in the in the locker
Morton was
room, and it's
destroyed.
like we wanted this for Zach and for Painter because he's talking like he knows that Zach is leaving.
But Denise, that also reinforces for anyone who wonders about how much they care, and if they're like us in some way, they are. They want Painter to win. They want Zach to win. It's not selfish.
It's the people that don't have the heart, like, and you guys know I'm sappy. I've got heart on this thing. Wait, that came out wrong. I've got a heart for this thing. Dang,
You got a heart? Is it on? Heart on?
No, heart for this team.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, goodness gracious. I got a little out in front of myself there, okay?
Bulging Duke? What was it? No. What did we say last week? A raging Duke?
Surging Duke.
Not
Surging
raging or
Duke.
bulging. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we don't need that at all.
Are this on? Are we? We're live.
I don't think we're recording.
We'll do it live.
Okay, fine. I'm sure Anish's going to edit this. It's going to all be
No,
cleaned
he always
up.
does.
I don't know if we have the technology.
Yeah, how would you even try? How would you even start? Is there software? Who knows? Who's to say? There's no way you can figure that out. I can't remember my point, but okay, no, I got it. Okay, so when I watch those individual conversations of the players at their lockers after the game, my heart went out to these guys so much because I was like, you can tell they are all torn up, and they are being the most professional version of themselves that they can right then. They're trying to say the right thing. Somebody got mad at me on Twitter because they said, "Oh yeah, you're impressed with a bunch of guys saying the right things." Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. You just
Because
had
the
your
three-
dream shredded in front of you.
Because the three of us, could you imagine the three of
if
us?
someone put a camera and a mic in your face right after that, even as a fan, let alone as a player,
How about this? I'm
get it
47.
out of their hand.
I'm so much better in my control than
Yes,
I
this is
ever have
measured.
been.
I know.
I'm measured. Guess what I did? My big victory last night was waiting 2.5 hours to go on and get and record.
Every time Jay and I are like we're waiting for Boiler Down to just tear.
Well, when there was
the
a
thing
gap,
to
I was like,
shreds.
this is
and then he
I'm
comes
glad
on
he's
live
waiting.
and he's just measured and he's perfectly
begins.
reflective and
The
it's
homily.
full story, ups and
So what
downs,
lessons-
highs.
what
I'm
lessons
taking
do
you
we
on
take
the ride.
from-
So my nephew, I'm sitting in the room in the seat that I watched the final seconds tick off.
Turn to Ecclesiastics, Painter 116. How about that? Is that good? Sorry, go on.
My nephew's over here. He's to my left. Okay.
Yes.
My nephew, sadly, is brainwashed as a Purdue fan.
Yep.
And so I've got one nephew who is as wound up as I am, but he's a younger version. Okay. And then I've got another nephew right over here who is very, very smart, very controlled. People enjoy being around him. He's very funny. Ladies like him. He's not anything like me. See what I just did?
Yep. I got it.
But he's a great kid. Seriously, like exemplary teenager. And he's over here, and he is not moved. He's not saying anything. His dad, my brother, is right there going off. At one point, the three of us, my brothers and I, are yelling at each other as if we were Painter yelling at the team.
Wait, all three of your brothers watched? Alan didn't go to a movie?
That's right. He left. Sorry. You know what it was? It was my god brother, cousin. One of them.
Okay.
We're yelling at each other like heated, as if we are the coach in the huddle. Okay. So my nephew's absorbing this. And so they get down to 3 or 4 minutes. See if any of you can relate with this. And he just says, "This isn't happening again, is it?" And then I said, "No, this is worse.
No, this is new.
This
This
new.
is, I mean, not worse. This is nothing.
The
nothing-
worst.
This is the worst. Like the worst it could have been. This is it. This is the one.
This is my calculus of having people in my house yesterday was it's a 16 versus 1, guys. If they can't do this, I don't deserve to have any of the things that I've got, all the preconceived notions I have about Purdue basketball and all my weird pinup rage that I get and that comes out while watching a game. This should be fine. And if it's not fine, it's a good check on me. It really is. But guess what? All those things got tested.
Was it fine? It wasn't
It was
fine.
not fine. It's not fine.
Hey, let's go through some historic losses and see.
Oh,
if, this
good.
one
I'm glad
is
we're
up
going to
there.
have some fun today.
Let's do it. Let's do it. This will be the final segment on the therapy session.
Leave
that
on a
was today.
positive note, why don't we?
Team USA basketball had some bad losses here or there. So Team USA in 04 losing to Puerto Rico and 06 in the Olympics losing to Greece. It's not like losing to teams that are stacked with really good talent. Those were just like they had one like Rudy Fernandez and like that was it. Like it was just those were bad all-star teams losing to really bad teams.
You know, the other difference I would say about those is nobody was watching.
Everyone
was watching this
Everyone
game.
was watching it.
The 06 to Greece was the Olympics, and so that may have been big, but like.
What did the U.S. team do in subsequent Olympics?
Exactly.
I don't remember.
Exactly.
Did they win gold medals?
This is a common
Because,
thread. This is a common thread. But bookmark that thought, J Money. Bookmark that thought. You can talk about maybe it's fitting that Painter is a Cubs fan, but the 03 Cubs loss, the Bartman loss to the Marlins. Talking about a very good team completely mentally unraveling to like a pretty insignificant moment. Again, I say this as a Cubs fan. By the way, if you're a Cubs and Purdue fan, like I am, just the epitome of losers. We're just losers.
World Series in 16, man.
Exactly.
That's
And
like,
when I texted a Raiders fan yesterday, he was saying, "I'm a Raiders fan. I get it." I'm like, I don't know. Why would you be a Raiders fan?
Yeah.
He lives
there are infinite numbers of Vikings, Browns, and Bills losses to come to terms with, but those are losers.
The Bills are tough, and
Bills are tough. The Bills are up there. 1990. We're talking about cross sports. 1990. Buster Douglas over Mike Tyson. We got a bunch like in tennis.
Oh, that was a big upset.
Yes.
Golf.
And if you ever read about Buster Douglas, how he was done fighting like 6 months.
He was a tomato
before.
can. He was what they call a tomato can. He was. He was a Garrett. Tyson's crew didn't bring the metal thing that brings the swelling down. They didn't bring it out to the ring. They didn't think it would be more than a minute.
Thinking about individual losses, Greg Norman choking on in the final, in the back nine.
More than once, but yes.
But like again, like these
John
are
Vandevelde at the.
Oh, that was a great one.
Individual losses, though. We've got the Patriots section of this. The 07 loss to the Giants, which you know very well.
2011 lost to the Giants.
But 07,
The
that
head
was
catch,
just a
right?
bad.
07, they were the helmet
that
catch in 07, and they were the undefeated team.
That shouldn't have happened. But by the way, did the Patriots do anything other than that? Anyway,
I don't recall. That's the only
Speaking
ones
of
I
the
remember.
next thing on this list, which may be the only comparable, is 28-3. The woebegone, cursed Atlanta Falcons team.
I'll tell you why it's not comparable. Because you blew a 28-3 lead against a Super Bowl caliber team. You didn't lose to the worst team in football.
In the first round.
Well, on a national stage. That would only be comparable if the Browns were placed in the Super Bowl and did that to them. This is
Placed, like, by
you
a
can't
crane.
find something. Here's my feedback on these.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
None of these feel close.
Exactly. That
They're not comparable.
There is college football parts of this. Just the two that I picked up in relatively modern era is the kick six.
Yes.
But again, did Alabama do anything?
But
I'm not sure.
They recovered. How about
And
Boise over.
and then of course the Boise win, that's a big one. But then App State over Michigan.
App State over Michigan.
App State Michigan's a good one. How about and tell me you guys can fill it in. I'm trying to find it on the internet. I can't find it here. Didn't Ralph Sampson's Houston team lose?
We're about to get to the college basketball.
Oh, he's got
section.
more.
We're
Okay.
about to get to the college basketball section.
Right.
We'll start with the women, which people say.
Yeah, we will.
People will say that 1/16 has only happened once before.
It's
no,
happened in women's.
It's happened twice.
Yeah.
The other one.
That's incredible because
Which is incredible
no
because
parity
1
in
in
women's
16 is
basketball.
usually a 60-point game.
The only one that might be comparable is Stanford in 1996 losing to Harvard.
Was that long ago? 96?
Harvard were back-to-back Ivy champions on their second Ivy League championship, and they were 22-4. They were a legitimately good team.
Right.
And Stanford's star suffered a torn ACL late in the year. So that would have been
that
closer
sounds
to the
familiar.
Hummel. That would have been closer to the Hummel year. We've had that version of this.
But except those teams didn't do this. Those teams that were punched
Correct.
so hard in the nuts still advanced a couple rounds.
We're in the men's college basketball season.
Oh, here we go. New
A
division.
section of this. Speaking of advancing a couple of rounds,
And in case anyone's wondering, Anish has a spreadsheet for literally anything you can think of.
1985 Villanova Georgetown. Patrick
But
Ewing.
again, you're in the championship.
You're
Isn't
in
it
the
easier to swallow losing
It
to the
is.
national champs?
Absolutely it is. Patrick Ewing gets credit for taking these teams, putting
Yes.
these teams on his back,
Plus,
and
Georgetown
taking
won,
them to
I believe, the next year or the year before.
Exactly. And then, Boiler Dad, we get to 1982, which is the first of the UVA collapses. Ralph Sampson in 1982 losing in an early season outside of the tournament loss to Chaminade.
Chaminade,
But they
which is
ended up
like a
going
high school
to-
team, and they were that
Ralph
team,
Sampson.
They had it wasn't just Sampson though. There were 3 pros on that
They
team.
were
I think.
great.
But that was an early
They enjoyed their time in Hawaii, man.
They ended
You
up
fought
winning
them?
the ACC and going to the Elite Eight anyway, and Ralph Sampson won a championship or 2 anyway. So like they did other things, right? And then we get to the modern comparable that everybody says, which is UVA losing to UMBC, but UMBC was as covered was a good team, and UVA had 6 players who saw NBA time.
Yeah, and well, the one thread through all of this is pretty much every one of these teams that got upset either won a national title like right before or right after. So feels like a lock to me. National championship.
Are you
It's
betting
really
then?
is that it's so
you guys like
difficult to get to this play, to get the bingo card, which is the bingo card means
You got to make
have
it
to be
a lot.
you have to be so good all the time.
All the
it can't
time.
be a fluke. And
Right.
so, this one's going to live forever. Even if Purdue loses or wins the title next year, it's like, oh yeah, this is the worst.
Yeah,
one.
but people talk about can they come back from it? You run like let's just play games here. If they run to the Elite Eight next year, it doesn't erase it, but you're like, okay, they're past that little glitch, right? Like it is very recoverable even without. I don't want to hear like they have to win a national title or this is no.
But on the flip side, what if they lose again early next year?
Then we're doing this again in a year. What do you mean? What
And
if?
then it's
Then
just
for the
like
6th time in the last 10 years, we're doing this same show. We'll just
Exactly.
run this one.
It's just,
edit
You
some
just
things
go over
out.
and edit over.
Right.
I tried to write something and I was like, I'm just
Even if they
rewriting the
lost
thing
to-
that I wrote last year.
UVC.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I
tried
want to show
to-
you guys
you-
something just because I think this is a good personality study. So, whereas Anish has organized charts that he's done research for and he keeps them for the right moment, I do these type of notes for mine.
Are those hieroglyphics? What is that?
This is a different show. Yeah, so
He's a
that's-
drawer, man.
It's
Yeah,
like
I draw
that
for a
gif
living.
of the guy from Always Sunny where he's like pointing at the
Yes, exactly. It
And
looks like
everything's
completely madman.
insane person stuff.
Yes.
It's no, let's be clear. All of this
It's all
is insane
insanity.
behavior.
It's all
of this
exactly.
is insane behavior.
David Jenkins comment a little bit down there. And again, thanks, David, a day after a game to be joining
It's great
the show.
to be
That's
here.
great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Analytics say losers of the 116 win a natty the next year 100% of the time. So he's not
That's
wrong.
right. That's right.
He's not wrong.
Now it's only we can't say it's
Yeah,
50%.
Jennifer, by the way, put Jennifer's comment. I made this comment in our group chat, and I haven't put it on Twitter because I felt like it was a little too mean.
But when she says it's okay,
we'll be featured in one shining moment, but in the worst way. I said to the guys last night, because I like to also drive the screwdriver into your kidney. But I said, guys, we'll be in one shining moment. It'll happen.
Can you bring up Gentry's comment?
We
here?
complain every year that they don't get enough.
There's a lot of good stuff here. So Gentry BN says, why does everyone think Purdue will be good next year without E? I can't imagine this season results without him. I hope Berg's good, but I can't imagine.
It's a different team every year. That's what college.
This is the whole thing. Have you not learned? Have you not learned?
Have you not watched Bader? He's going to win the Big Ten.
Say that more, and they'll have number one by, I don't know, November 1st somehow. I mean,
it'll be preseason, sure.
It's
by the way, this brings me to one of the other things I wanted to ask you guys about, because I saw people talking about this a lot on Twitter. It's not a fun thing to talk about, but why not? What of today's conversation?
This has been all great on the other side.
Who's going to transfer? I saw people talking about TKR, and I'm like, no, I don't want him to transfer.
Listen, there is no root to this talk of people saying who's going to transfer, and I will anybody who, because I had a direct message. I don't know if you saw it, Jay, but a direct message from an old friend of mine. He said, well, of course TKR is going to transfer, and so is Newman. And I was like, no, what? No. And I'll tell you why I don't think that. Whenever I think about transfer rumors, transfer theories, all that stuff, all I think about is every year for 2 off seasons. It's only 2, so I say it's gonna. I overspoke
every
that.
year going back
every
2
year.
years.
I got ahead of myself because this guy went pro after a 3rd year, but Carson Edwards was going. He was transferring every year according to the Knucklehead board, and these people had the reason why it was going to happen.
I know a guy who.
I know my cousin. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And guess what? Carson he stayed there. We don't know. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors. We don't know how much these guys love Purdue. We don't know if their girlfriend's there. We don't know if they love the campus or if there's a great, a great restaurant on campus they can't get anyplace else. Everybody knows West.
Do you have a restaurant on campus that you like?
I do, as a matter of fact. And I just was there last Sunday. It seems like forever ago now.
Seems like a lifetime.
Like a different lifetime.
Where we almost and Adam was on here earlier. He was saying he was tired
victory of the season.
But head over to AJ's on Vine when you're on campus. Get one of the delicious appetizers that I snacked on as Purdue defeated Penn State and got their first seed draw. Oh, if we could go back just a couple days.
Remember when 30 wins this season was almost
it felt automatic.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Don't even. Oh, it's one more. I didn't think about that.
Yep.
Yeah, so go eatajs.com. If you're near campus, order something. They're going to treat you right. I'm telling you, the staff's great there. Good owners, Purdue guys. And then when you're there, you probably should wear a shirt like what I'm wearing.
Yeah,
which is something from Martin Vintage. Look
at
this.
Base layer, the Martin Vintage basketball shirt.
MartinVintage.com. They had a great sale this week celebrating the beginning of the tournament. I retweeted it because I got the email from
And now
them.
we can celebrate the end of the tournament.
And now I wonder if they have a big celebratory sale for the end of the tournament. Son of a gun. Yeah, Mr. Meister says get the funnel cake fries. They're called funnel cake sticks because I called them incorrectly. Funnel cake fries.
Oh,
over
Devin
and over.
Shook. I can answer
delicious.
Devin's question. Is carry night spot still a thing? No, Devin. They shut down the Night Spot Grill. I think there are too many other options on campus now.
Jay and I spent many evening in the Night Spot Grill together, covered in grease.
Covered in grease, not the way you're thinking of it.
Oh, hey,
sweating.
Slow down.
Wait, hold on.
Watching Purdue games on WLFI or whatever the hell channel they were on back then.
We were serving up the good stuff back there.
Oh, it was good stuff. It was the precursors to AJ's. If we had known that you could just become rich and famous by going and doing that on our own, we probably would have done that.
Maybe we would have started a restaurant on Vine. Jay, what was your favorite thing to make for yourself that wasn't on the menu in the Night Spot? Did you have like a cheese stick, chicken strip, something that you put together that nobody else could get?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that it was nobody else could get, but yeah, making up your own fried food and stealing it, basically,
yes,
because that's what we were doing.
Well, that wasn't stealing. It was a perk of the job. Maybe that's why Night Spot's out of business because of all the cheese sticks you took. But yeah,
Sorry, I yanked my cord right out. What?
Whoopsie daisies.
Excuse me. Hey,
Whoopsie daisy.
hey.
Yeah, yank that cord.
Oh well, an hour 18 in, and I think we've we've said everything we can say on recording.
Yeah.
We'll say.
So in all seriousness, guys, I don't know if I ever talk to you two again.
Yep.
But,
I'll never let go, Jack.
never let go, Jack. It was a good season hanging out with you guys. It really was, and I enjoyed talking to people. And I really do hope that talking through this stuff makes you feel a little bit better, and a little bit you don't have the fog of that defeat just on your brain. You can get out and say, okay, everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. There's other people out here dealing with this with me.
Why and hold on to that, which I've been saying, like, hey, it would be a lot easier if we didn't like everybody. Hey, that's the silver lining of all this, which is like they're awesome. They're all awesome. Like everybody involved with this program and this team this year was amazing. They were amazing.
I'll see all you guys. I will see all you guys in Maui. I can't wait for the Maui Invitational.
Are you in? Definitely.
We're winning.
Am I in? What do you think? I'm made of money?
Yeah,
yeah. There's a great comment over there. Did you see that comment?
Oh, shut up.
Did you see comment by Motorcycle? We probably shouldn't put that one up.
Oh, well, okay.
Bang!
But it's hilarious. Yeah.
But
Kyle Seago has a great comment. I blame the three of you for the fact that I'll be back for more next year. Ready to get hurt all over again. It's been a blast.
You acknowledged that tweet we got, and I think we should have again on this show that we got last night, which was that bringing right after the game ended, we had a gentleman tweet at us who said he lost his father in November.
Yeah,
and he said it's been a very hard year, and listening to you guys talk about this reminded me of all of our conversations, and I was like, man, that is like,
yeah, it got me.
But it's just. Reminding you of what's important, and I don't think the three of us need I think we look around at what we've got in life and recognize that. But man,
blessed people.
But man, that is a great. Thank you for that. For saying, and I said that to him. I said I appreciate the kind words because that's incredible. If we could have a positive impact on your healing, that's hard to put into words. That's
everybody. Your thing that kind of. Dowd said yesterday was like, you're never a Purdue fan by accident. Nobody stumbles upon this or adopts this. Right?
You don't front run with Purdue. It doesn't really happen.
Yeah. Boiler Dowd is from a family of Purdue folks.
Somebody joked. Did you see the joke? Somebody said it's a family reunion around the game, and it is.
Yeah, it's a funeral session. Usually, but funerals are fun when you see everybody.
Yeah, and Irish. I mean, we're all Irish, so
Irish. I want to go to an Indian funeral. That sounds amazing.
But like, I am. First generation American and third generation Boilermaker.
That's amazing.
Jay Money has poisoned his beautiful son. There's no hope for him because he is now, these are the tentacles that reach.
He was despondent last night. And he woke up this morning and was like, I told you, he was like he's like, they're there. Because I made a typical disparaging remark about Purdue, and he defended him. Like, oh, look, you still have the light is still in your eyes. It's still there.
And so it's like nobody is this by accident, and so in good times it feels better, and in bad times,
yes, that's a great yes.
But in bad times it feels like this because it's like it's like, not accidental. It's not
the difference between rooting for a pro team and they win, and you're like, this was awesome, but I don't have a connection other than the fact that I've pulled for them for years, right?
For laundry,
right, and even if it's been in my case, like hockey, like 40 years of rooting for a team, yeah, it's incredible to me when they succeed. But if if you were part of it, or it's in your woof.
He didn't like your point. He didn't
exactly.
Like your point.
Take it back. Well, Dylan's a good reminder in the margin over here. Dylan, his dad gave him the gift of being a Purdue fan, and we joke all the time about ruining our boys with the same thing. But it means a lot to him.
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing. I said it in the post game, and I'll say it again. This is you didn't buy the Purdue gear just because Jay told you to go buy a Martin Vintage shirt. You didn't buy the Purdue gear because Matt Painter was hired. You didn't buy the Purdue gear because Carson Edwards went to Purdue. Most of you. you buy the Purdue gear because you went there and your uncle went there and your dad went there, and it means something more than just the logo. It means it's the association of the time you had there, right? And the time and you're still proud of it, right? So keep that in mind. Keep your wits. I know it's it seems to me a ridiculous thing to say that, because I don't think I should have to say, well, don't throw kerosene on your Purdue gear and burn it. But I literally had a very good friend of mine, an alum, say, I'm done with this stuff. I could not believe he was saying it. And he was my roommate in college.
Give it.
And I was like, man,
week.
and then I'm like a little offended. I'm like, all we shared.
It's okay.
Well, we know
by the way, this idiot dog that's barking in the background here is a West Lafayette dog that was adopted in West Lafayette. So this fool is also a part of this.
So he's seen nothing but heartbreak as well.
So sad day for the dog.
I think, to your point about letting it bother you, or people who, and keeping it in perspective, I think there's it's like so many other things in life where it doesn't need to be all or nothing, or all one way or all the other. Here's what I would say, and I was thinking about this.
No, because I am on social media. You're wrong.
I was thinking about this morning, and here's what I'll allow you all, and I will be the judge in this case. This will come up many times, and you'll be entitled to be bothered by it. And if you read about it today and it depresses you a little, that's okay. We're not suggesting that you just turn your fandom off and that it shouldn't bother you and you should see the sunny side of things. But when you do step away from it and play with your kids, or spend time with your spouse, or take a walk, or do literally anything else, it should be able to leave, like my soul left my body a few years. That should be able to happen for you.
Attain inner peace.
And then when it comes back and it comes up again at the start of next year, it should bother you again. That's okay. It's okay for both to be true. That it will grind and it'll eat at you, because otherwise just stop watching things like this. Just stop.
Or just take a walk into the Chesapeake, as I said, with my Bluebird. As I said 5 years ago at this point.
Did that start with losing to a 16? No, because they weren't a 1. Did that start with something like this?
It was similar.
Purdue was set up to be a number 1 seed, but we all knew how it was going to end. And
No. But you said if they were to do X, like they lose to someone, I will just walk into the ocean.
Yeah, you may.
It was this scenario. It was 1.
If they get it,
it is my pinned tweet currently. So it's
good.
It's good. It's fine.
I don't go.
Have you reserved your whale then?
Yes. Yeah. I've actually, it's Uber for whales. That's Bluebird. Yeah.
It's Uber. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the time again. Appreciate the season. Appreciate the Boilers. Still Boiler. Hammered down. I love you guys. Good afternoon.